Hey guys, so today this is a special video on MaxiAspie. I'm just going to be showing some things that you've not seen before, or they've been on other YouTube channels, or they've been 3-hour conferences over Zoom that I've recorded, that I've done. Obviously with coronavirus this year, it's been very hard to obviously get out and do some of the speeches that I'd normally be doing. But rest assured, I have been raising awareness for autism by doing things like conferences, by doing virtual speeches online, and just really getting the message out there that actually we need to understand autism and be more aware of it more now than ever. So continuously working and trying to improve that. On the channel soon you'll be seeing my speech at the Autism show. There are some other things that will be coming up on the channel as well. But in this video it's just some videos that I've done for other YouTube channels, for other people that are on their YouTube channels. If you want to see the full versions, please go into the description down below and the links will be there, because you can see those full videos on those respected YouTube channels. So in this video guys, you'll see the video that I've done for BBC Breakfast, which was on BBC and their iPlayer. You'll see the video that I and other autistic people did for the National Autistic Society in Autism Awareness Week. You'll be seeing the interview that I've done for Send Talk with Richard over on the Send Talk channel. You also see the podcast that I've done on Spotify for Neil and Ronnie Barber, and their podcast was Daisy and Me. And the last one is you'll see a massive conference Zoom call that I done with Vanessa, Paul and Jesse for the Lambeth Autism group. So you only see highlights of those videos in this video, but you can go and watch the full videos, and I hope you do. The links will be in the description. Also guys, I'll be doing a charity event this year. I'm going to manage to squeeze a charity event in this year. More details about that will be coming out soon. But guys, here is the video. I hope you enjoy, and again, let's just continue raising awareness for autism and autistic people, and make sure that we get more people into employment, we get more people getting the right support from government, we get more students, children out there the support that they need, and just hope that we can continue spreading the autism awareness message. So guys, here are the videos, here are some of the stuff that you've not seen, and thank you for watching. Take care, and here it is.
Max was diagnosed with autism at a young age. As an adult, common rituals help him cope. His old routine of travelling to work from Newbury and a weekly trip to the pub made him feel calm.
Yeah, routine is kind of what makes, I suppose, my day go as well as possible. To the smallest thing could happen and it really will affect my day and flow. So yeah, with this, pandemic happening, it's obviously thrown everything into the works.
Shopping for Max has always been difficult. The lights and sounds of a supermarket disorientate him. The new social distancing rules have only added to his confusion.
I walked up one of the aisles, that had an arrow going the other way, and someone shouted at me and said, "You're not meant to come up there." And I again, it was my first time kind of going into the shop since this whole thing's happened. So a lot of change there, and it's a bit, it's about being mindful.
Families with children who are autistic are also finding it a struggle. 6-year-old Joseph doesn't understand social distancing when he's out and can't process why he has to do schoolwork at home.
I can't get him to do any schoolwork at all because school happens at school and home happens at home. And he's like, this doesn't happen here. This is the wrong place. It doesn't, and we've tried to talk to his TA on the phone, and he doesn't even want to do that because that's not usually what happens either. So he's just really, really confused.
His confusion manifests in defiance and meltdowns. It's a picture replicated up and down the country, but not everyone's sympathetic.
Lots of families are finding being stuck at home, their children experiencing higher anxiety, experiencing meltdowns because of that anxiety. Actually, they're finding their neighbours are being more judgmental, that are perhaps being negative in their reactions around that. So we really ask that people show that compassion.
With no word yet on when the current restrictions will end, it'll be some time before life returns to normal. The wait for some will be harder than others. Natalie Verney, BBC South Today.
Hi, I'm Andy.
Billy Jade.
Connor.
Arled. Dan.
Jason Ferguson.
Kevin Chapman.
Leslie.
Max J. Green.
Purple Ella.
Savan.
Says Francis.
This World Autism Awareness Week, we are working with the National Autistic Society
to change attitudes, build understanding,
and to create a society that works for autistic people.
99% of people have said that they have heard of autism.
But do they know what being autistic really means?
Even though understanding of autism has grown,
millions of people still think silly, damaging, and totally wrong things about people like us.
About 6 million people seem to think that autism is a curable condition or a mental illness.
It's not either of these things.
And 6.6 million people seem to think you can grow out of autism.
No, you can't.
Autism is a lifelong developmental disability that affects how people understand everything around them and interact with others.
And both adults and children can be autistic.
So, since so many people still don't know what autism is, we asked autistic people and their families what it is they want people to know about autism, and they told us these 5 things. Autistic people often...
1. Feel anxiety about change and unexpected events. This one definitely affects me. Simple, small things in life like the shower not working in the morning can really throw off my entire day.
Number 2. Be under or oversensitive to sound, smell, light, taste and touch. This is called sensory sensitivity.
3. Need time to process information like questions or instructions.
4. Face high levels of anxiety in social situations.
5. Cael trafferth cyfathrebu a rhyngweithio ag eraill.
You can find out more about the 5 things at autism.org.uk/WAAW.
We know that the public want to help, but they aren't always sure what they can do.
The National Autistic Society,
with the help of thousands of autistic people and their families,
have created some handy tips for the public to follow.
Everyone loves a good tip, right?
Understanding what may be a minor inconvenience to you can be distressing to an autistic person.
Give as much notice as possible about any changes or unexpected events occurring.
Remember that quiet areas can be an escape for autistic people from the hubbub or liveliness of a party, office, shop or other public space. Make sure there is somewhere to retreat to for your autistic guests, colleagues, friends or family.
Clear communication is good for everybody, so take the time to explain things clearly.
And give people time to process and respond.
When organising a social event, give plenty of notice and as much information of what to expect as possible.
Understand that everyone communicates in their own way and at their own pace. If you ask someone a question, give them lots of time to reply. Try counting to 10 in your head rather than asking them the same question again.
do not rely on body language or facial expressions, as some autistic people can struggle with this.
There are more tips available at www.autism.org.uk for you to read and share.
Strange.
Antisocial.
Rude.
Drwg. These are all the ways which autistic people have been described, and these insults have increased.
So what can we do?
We know that seeing autistic people like Chris Packham and Greta Thunberg and characters in EastEnders and Hollyoaks has helped change the public perception of autism.
But it doesn't stop there.
Autism affects everyone differently, and it's important that all autistic experiences, including those with higher support needs, are included.
The National Autistic Society knows the power of telling autistic people stories.
And last year launched Stories from the Spectrum to tell even more.
You can read them all at autism.org.uk/stories.
Oeddech chi'n gwybod bod y rhan fwyaf o bobl yn gwybod am rywun autistic?
Yes, over half of all people in the UK have a connection to someone autistic.
Whether that's a family member, friend, colleague, or someone else.
This means that there are more people than ever who need to understand how they can help.
Thank you for watching.
If you need support, visit autism.org.uk.
Please like, share and comment on this video so that we can make sure as many people as possible understand what they can do to be more helpful to autistic people.
Have a great World Autism Awareness Week.
Hi, I'm Richard Semmons from Centalk. Welcome to the very first of our live streamed parent talk sessions, when we're going to be covering a wide range of neurodiverse subjects, talking to neurodiversity professionals and advocates. We're going to be covering a wide range of subjects, including epilepsy, ADHD, Tourette syndrome. Tonight we're focusing on OCD. Just a few little bits and pieces about the session. If you're watching it live with us, feel free to add your comments and questions down below, and we will try to include those as much as possible during the session. If you're watching the recording, thank you, and again, welcome to join us. And again, you feel free to add comments in there, and we will respond to that and get the discussion going. So tonight we're focusing on OCD. And we're very pleased to have with us Max Green. Welcome, Max. A quick introduction for him. You're an ambassador for the National Autism Society. You're a YouTuber and actor. And I believe, as well as OCD, which is obviously your chosen specialized subject for tonight, you're autistic, you have ADHD and epilepsy. So we'll hopefully later on sort of talk about how those all relate together. So thanks for joining us, Max. Maybe to kick off with, there are a lot of myths about OCD and what it is. Maybe you could just give us a flavour of what OCD is and how it affects you personally.
So, I mean, my OCD, I've always kind of met, I suppose, two types of OCD. So one is someone will have to have something that way because it just has to be that way, to the point where they will keep on going over and over and over on it. And it's not so much because it's got to look like that or it has to be like that. It's just something that makes them, some feeling, some impulsion that makes them feel like it's got to be that way, to the point where they will do it over and over and over again. The other OCD and how it affects me is I grew up and I would find a OCD. I find that you'll always have like a ritual, you know, you'll always have something that you'll be doing. And the way that my OCD affected me was more, it progressed over time. So at first, I think because of the autism as well, my OCD started off quite logically. And then it started going really unlogical, to the point where I would think, if I don't do this, or if I don't wash my hands 10 times, or if I don't look 100 times before crossing the road, you know, I used to think like my mum or dad would die. And I would somehow think, I suppose, that by performing these actions, it could change some predetermined fate that was already out there. So that's kind of how my OCD really kind of blossomed in the end.
So it's quite interesting. There's these sort of two aspects to it. There's the bit that I suppose other people see, which are the rituals, the repeat behaviours, but then there's they aren't there just necessarily on their own. There is a driver to them, I suppose. Which are these negative thoughts, which obviously people from outside aren't necessarily aware of. And also those, as you mentioned, those thoughts are or can be very illogical. They don't necessarily make sense. And comments that I've heard people make saying, oh, you know, if you know they're illogical, why do you respond to them? Why can't you just sort of park them and get on with things? How does that work with you? I mean, what is your response to these thoughts when they come?
I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, we're very aware that they're unlogical, and you know, if I actually don't do this, what's the likelihood of my mum dying going to happen? And in our heads, we know, you know, actually the likelihood of that happening is not very high. But the anxiety and the worry of taking the risk, because in our head, taking that risk, and if it was to happen, how bad we would feel, because we would automatically blame ourselves. We automatically reform into doing it again.
So, Max, you know a little bit about Daisy. What I mentioned to you the other day, the fact that she's 4 years old, she's non-verbal, and to the point where she was 2, she was actually speaking and kind of developing. So, normally. For you, can you just sort of explain kind of your journey as far as you remember it, I suppose, when you were younger?
I mean, my mum obviously found it tricky, and obviously my dad did as well when I was growing up. I mean, I couldn't speak till I was 6, so I had to learn Macinton just to be able to communicate. But a lot of the time I'd communicate with my mum just going, and, my mum would always know somehow, some way, what I needed and what I wanted. And I think it's other people in my family that found it harder to do that. My nan would often be going, what's he want? I don't get what he's asking. And growing up, my mum says, I was, how to word it? I mean, I was very unpredictable as a child. I mean, you could take me into a shop, for instance, if I went into a shop, I would, back then they see obviously things differently to what we see them now, which, we would put that down as a tantrum now. And in reality, I was probably having an autistic meltdown, because you've got a young, person who's autistic, undiagnosed at that point as well, who can't communicate, can't actually say to mum, don't take me into the shop, I'm scared, or I don't feel comfortable. And the only way this young person, myself, could communicate was at that time to throw a tantrum, which obviously we now realise, with sensory overload and sensory processing, probably was a meltdown. And it was just very unpredictable, Nish. You couldn't take me anywhere. I used to have like a strap, so because I would just run off, like I had no element of danger or something could happen if I do X, Y, and Z. As if I could see something and it interested me, I would just bolt. My mum always says there was a story of me on a beach, and her sister-in-law at the time said, let him off, this strap that my mum used to have on my wrist and her wrist, so I obviously couldn't bolt all the time. And my sister-in-law, my mum's sister-in-law said, just let him off, he'll be fine. And anyway, she said about 2 seconds, bolted straight across the beach. Mum and dad and the whole family trying to chase after me. So just really unpredictable. And obviously my mum thankfully got a statement, which is now an educational health and care plan, just before I went to primary. But a lot of the time she went, it was a lot of denial, a lot of people declining that idea. Even the teacher turned around to my mum and said one day, no, he's not autistic, he's just naughty. And that was the kind of, idea at the time. And that journey to get the diagnosis for my mum, I think, was very hard and very tough. And I find it funny as well, as soon as you got a diagnosis, a lot of doctors will then feel more happy to diagnose you with other things, because shortly after autism, I was then diagnosed with ADHD and OCD. So, yeah, in reality, ADHD I probably haven't got. I mean, I talk for England and all those sort of things, but I mean, that's very an autistic trait. We speak about things and we can go on for ages when we're interested in it. So whether that was ADHD or I don't know. The OCD was a definite positive diagnosis, I know for a fact, just through the again, growing up and going through some of the OCD things that I've gone through.
Max, can I just ask you, Max, from that, what age was the diagnosis then? Because you spoke in Makaton up to the age of 6, so your mum was obviously aware that something was different. So when was the diagnosis made?
So I believe, and again, you know, I'm always a bit wary on when it was, but my mum's always said around 3 or 4. I know it was before primary, so yeah, because that then meant when I went to school, when I went to my secondary school, the government was very involved in what school I went to because of my educational health and care plan. And apparently, if you get that after you go to school, it's not as effective as if you get it before. So I know it was definitely before I started reception in my primary school. So around.
One of the things that we're going through now, and it's fantastic, it's amazing, Max. We're talking to you, and you're saying things that we're seeing in Daisy. It's just, Neil and I were both nodding there. Yeah, that's the tantrums or the meltdowns. We get the meltdowns, and we're coping with this. I just wondered, what was the frustrations then with you people not, because we're talking about communication really in this podcast this time. What was the frustration? What was in your head when you were trying to communicate, not just to your mum, but to other people then, Max?
Well, when I was at school, you know, one thing I always wanted to do is just make friends and you know, be able to have that social relationship that other people were having. And it always frustrated me. You know, why can't I be like him, or why can't I be like that? You know, why can't I have these conversations with people? You know, to the simple thing, when I was at school, I was like, why can't I play football? So I would just run in the middle of the football pitch and pick the ball up and run with it. And that's how I thought you played football. And, you know, then I would see all these people getting angry at me and frustrated. And, you know, it was just like so frustrating because you just like, I just want to join in, and you guys probably think I'm just being a nuisance, and I'm not. I just want to be able to play football like everyone else.
And I know I've got two of the best people in the place to talk about social media and the misuse of social media. And it's Max and God, yeah. Sorry, my mind's gone clear. I was looking at this bit of water dripping over. I was thinking, any minute now, this entire room's going to explode. But yeah, so we need to really speak about how the impact of social media is done a couple of things. It's carved out a new future. I had a conversation with Vanessa yesterday, and she was like, oh, didn't you know that you could do this on Zoom and that on Zoom? And I was like, no. Why would I just automatically know that? You know, unless I've indoctrinated myself to become a Zoom zombie. And so we had this really weird conversation where she looked at me really strange to say, how is it you don't know how to communicate over Zoom? I thought you were a communicator. So for me, the whole use or the extended use of social media is something that makes me, it really does make me worry about tomorrow. It really does make me worry about where young people are with the influences of social media and what impact it's going to have tomorrow. You know, when the world goes back to normal, Jesse, you know this, look at if it ever goes back to normal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How big a part will social media play? And so Max, I'm going to ask Max first. Jesse, I'm going to get back to you. I'm going to ask Max first what you think about this.
You're muted.
Max.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Max.
Very well. Not very well by the looks of it. No, I think you're right. I think the way that we communicate is changing drastically, even the way that we work, you know. So, you know, the biggest challenge I've found working through the whole of COVID is communicating over online. You know, I can't just get up and go speak to somebody at work, or I can't just go up and speak to my manager, you know, if I'm having issues with things. And that's a big communication barrier for me, because a lot of the time I'll be asked to do something and I necessarily won't know how to do it or what to do or understand necessarily what they're asking me to do, because I need that kind of verbalization. And I find that really tricky. In regards to social media, obviously people are going to be using it more because, let's face it, when we're bored, we do have a gander online and we have a look at things, and that's dangerous because we read things that aren't true and then we share it and then other people read it. You know, the amount of things that I've seen, you know, around, I suppose, Donald Trump, for instance, you know, and all the stuff that he's promoting, you know, like America, no, we're low, you know, we haven't got the highest, you know, COVID death toll, but some people will listen to him because he's in a power of authority and he's in that position of power and presume that he is telling the truth. Actually, you know, he's not. So I think there's a massive shift, you know, a massive shift to come. Whether or not it's, you know, for better, I'm not sure. I mean, we've always had this conversation anyway, is the internet a good thing? You know, and we've had that before. We've been forced to use it now in the situation. You know, before it was a choice. Now we've not really got a choice. You know, there's probably people I could have worked with before that probably could honestly say, you know, I don't use email or I don't use this. But now you want to open a Zoom account, need an email. You know, you want to go on Facebook and keep in touch with people because you can't see them anymore. You've got to go on Facebook. And I always say the two biggest companies I think have benefited from the whole of COVID is supermarkets and anything internet. You know, have gone through the roof. Twitter users have gone through the roof. Instagram users, you know, you name it. Anything internet based is just going to go through the roof because ultimately people want to stay in touch with each other and people do get bored. And you know, ultimately that's what's happened. But obviously there is dangers with it. I'm sure that we'll discuss later on as well. But I think the biggest issue with social media, I find, is people think that what they share is private. And, you know, as soon as you publish something that is in the public eye, and you know, you'll have people that say, oh no, but, you know, I check my privacy settings on Facebook and it's this and it's that. And then you'll find out that actually they haven't set it the way that they thought they set it. And every kind of person can see what they've said. You know, I've known, you know, my nan, bless her, is a brilliant example. I mean, she doesn't really know how to use Facebook, but she will message people, but she will post on their wall and she will think that's a private message. So, you know, imagine though the danger of that. You know, luckily nan's not going to say anything horrible, but can you imagine if you just said, oh, I don't know, I spoke to Paul today, you know, what an idiot thing, and I've put that on a wall, you know, and everyone can see it, you know, that's kind of danger of it. So it's important, obviously, that we educate people how to use social media and actually, you know, show them the dangers of it and the risk to it. And it's not just as easy as, you know, as these companies make out. Sign up with us today, you know, a click away kind of thing. Because some, like, a click away and we have all your data. You know,
you see, that's what really worries me. And just going back to when I first met you, Max, and you were doing a talk on social media and the dangers of social media. And I never did tell you this, but you motivated me because, you know, I own this social media platform now. It's a safeguarded social media platform called Phone. And you were one of the people that inspired that movement. And you inspired that because up until then, I never really thought of social media as a dangerous tool. I never really looked at it as, you know, what are we doing with our data? What are we giving away for nothing? And you just quite rightly said it. You know, if you lock somebody in a room and the only thing in that room is a loaf of bread and a monitor, they're going to go to that monitor, and they're going to try and access the world. And this is the situation that we're in now. It's almost like, because we are locked down, you are forced to give data which you would never have given.
No.
For example, even with the way we're communicating today, you know, the use of this a year ago, you would have questioned the amount of data that you would have had to have given. And not only that, the fact that it's really, really intrusive in your operating system. You know, this particular platform here that we're using, and the emerging ones are all about basically living in your system. And so they, even when you turn off or sign out, they still got access to what you're doing. I think that's, yeah, so you were one of the people that motivated me to start this safeguarded platform. And I never did tell you that. I'm telling you that now. Yeah.
I'll tell you something as well. Thank you, Paul, as well. But there's one thing that I do as well with my camera, and people will choose to laugh at me for it or whatever, but it's that.
Yep.
Always cover a camera, always. And when I was doing a Sophos architect course for, and that's to do with cyber security, because obviously I work full time in IT, so I'd done a Sophos course. They actually give out a Sophos slider that goes over the camera, because again, that's another thing. You know, you sign up to a website, you put all your details in. You know, say it's a fraudulent website, they've got your IP address, they can then access that, they can then access your camera, and you know, you're stuck. You don't even know that you're being watched. So I always recommend, you know, even if it's a little bit of duct tape, you know.
Let me see if I've got any, or some, wrap your computer in tin foil.